2012 is marching on out the door, and 2013 is getting ready to come rushing right in. Now, as we look back at the year of 2012, we remember a lot of the forms of entertainment that we enjoyed, particularly with television. And some things were good this year, and some things were not. As far as it goes with television, I don't normally get a chance to watch a great many shows, unfortunately. A lot of the stuff that comes on the WB, with Smallville in particular, which I have never had a chance to really watch over the years, aside from a few episodes. We welcomed the introduction of the Arrow show this year, which I have also missed out on. And with it came the continuance of a trend which is really annoying. The mid-season finale, which has graced us with its presence and seems to be another factor of pop culture downside, which is here to stay at this point. Unfortunately, with this year and other shows, we saw great improvement. We saw greater strides being hit, and in some cases, we also saw some of them having to be prematurely canceled for what is most likely an inferior product to come along, and also perhaps one of the most annoying shows that I've ever had the displeasure of watching has aired this year. So what did I think about the television shows in 2012? Well, I've got 7 of them to discuss in mind, and let's get the ball rolling with the worst of 2012. Let's get the bad news out of the way first. Now, with 2012, when it comes to animated series, yes, I am a kid at heart, and I love cartoons, and superhero cartoons are probably one of the highest types of animated series that I will watch. In this case, Young Justice, Green Lantern, the animated series, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes, and yet another show which came along which I really did not need, and I'll get to that one shortly. With Young Justice and Green Lantern, the animated series, as part of DC Nation's DC block, we are getting better forms of entertainment from DC than we have been getting with their movies. A lot of their movies in the past, if they are not Batman or Superman related, most times are going to flop like I'll Get Out. Look at recent efforts of Jonah Hex, which was just actually so bad that a lot of people don't even remember it. Or the type of effort that they put into something like Green Lantern, which I would have liked story-wise, but I just did not like its execution. Their animated series have done extremely well. I was a little late getting into the Green Lantern, but for the first half of the first season of watching their version of Hal Jordan deal with Atrocitus and the Red Lantern Corps has actually been probably one of the better, or probably not one of the better superhero shows, but one of the more enjoyable superhero shows that I've seen come along in the early part of the 2010s. With this, I really liked the self-contained universe of the Green Lantern animated series, and trying to pick into some of the more recent comic stories, particularly by Geoff Johns from his Green Lantern run, have actually been enjoyable. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to really get into reading a lot of the stories that Geoff Johns wrote for the Green Lantern for the part of the last decade, but I am getting an education on the Red Lanterns, and I come away liking Atrocitus, and really made him one of my favorite villains out of DC among many others that they have. We also saw with Young Justice the end of the first season that Weissman had done, and it was a fantastic show. A little slow once it got rolling in 2011, but it kind of built up, and it left up with a terrific season finale for the first season. And the second season, which introduced us to the show's metamorphosis in name to Young Justice Invasion, taking place 5 years later, was yet another stride that Weissman hit with this story. Unfortunately, the little bit of the jump in between the first year and into the 5th year of the Secret Invasion style story that the League is having, or actually the Young Justice Group is having to deal with what I thought at first was the Proletarians, but come to find out is getting to not only having to deal with the Light, but also the impending coming of the Reach to Earth, which is going to be fantastic to see in animation. There are a couple of points on there to where I could criticize the show, but it would just be nitpicking at this point. But this is yet again another terrific series that Weissman has got under his belt, along with Gargoyles and Spectacular Spider-Man. So there's really no complaints in regards to that show. However, if we swap the park over to Marvel, this has not been a good year for them in terms of quality animated series. Now, their Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes is a fantastic show. The art, like a lot of their stuff that they've come out with, along with Wolverine and the X-Men and the Spectacular Spider-Man, the art styles were a little bit too warm up to, but story-wise, it was a fantastic run through just probably one of the best animated Marvel series that I've seen come out of the latter part of the 2000s, and was prematurely canceled, unfortunately, because of the fact that apparently this series did not tie into the movies enough to Jeff Loeb's satisfaction. And this resulted, unfortunately, with the announcement that the second season was cut short, and that a certain plot thread which had been left dangling that I really wanted to see, unfortunately will not be done. So, unfortunately, the Surtur story is out of the question, but we did see some fantastic stories taking place in there. Probably, despite what you would think of how Bendis wrote Secret Invasion in the stories during the 2008 event, it was pretty well done for the animated series, and really just a lot of good stories all around. I think also the fact that I hate with this cancellation too is just when they were starting to bring in a little bit of the lesser known characters and lineups of the new Avengers that this show had to cancel itself, but we did have some good strides in there. Really didn't like the Red Hulk, but all in all, Avengers Earth's Mightiest Heroes was a fantastic show, and I'm truly saddened to see it go. Now, as for the rumors that it may or may not be continued with in the Avengers Assemble cartoon, we just really have to wait to see what that's going to do, but more than likely, I think that's just Jeff Loeb trying to keep those of us fans who were pissed at the Earth's Mightiest Heroes cancellation from just rioting even further. Unfortunately, however, with the Marvel Hour block over on Disney, we also got the introduction of a show that I just absolutely could not stand upon its first viewing, and after some time, I went back and gave it another shot. The Ultimate Spider-Man cartoon, which I had actually high hopes for because they were bringing Brian Michael Bendis in to kind of write the series, and even bringing somebody along the caliber of Paul Dini to write some of the episodes in this really was a flop from the get-go. This is Family Guy for 5-year-olds. The first 2 episodes of The Ultimate Spider-Man, which did have some good animation, and you know, I'd kind of gotten over Drake Bell's voicing Spider-Man, really took a downward plunge real quick. Depicting Spider-Man in that show as a bit of schizophrenic who just breaks off into random tangents is not really all that funny. In fact, if people were worried that television over the years has intentionally been dumbing down their children with stupid concepts and just bad stories, simply look no further than this. What I could give this series in positive remarks, however, is that there is times that there is good animation, and I do like the idea of taking the idea of training young Spider-Man by S.H.I.E.L.D. in that show as a good step forward, at least for trying to do that. But the execution that they had of this show and just the treatment of some of the characters that they've had in general in this show has just been absolutely deplorable. Not to mention the fact that every so often with these episodes, whenever Captain America or Iron Man would show up in here as sort of the guest stars, there would always be a point to just stop and ram down our throats the fact that these guys were going to be in the Avengers movie, which came out in May, and even with Spider-Man getting his own movie in July, which I'm going to be talking a little bit more about once I get to the movies of 2012. But The Ultimate Spider-Man, I went back and tried watching it a little bit more several months later, and it really still has not done anything to redeem itself. Amazingly, with the problems that apparently they were claiming they were having with Earth's Mightiest Heroes and canceling this series such as they did, yet somehow this inferior series is went 26 episodes without a hiatus and is actually renewed for 26 episodes for the next season. This has been kind of a challenging point to where a lot of bad decisions were made with this particular brand of superhero cartoons, and really leaves me wondering if I want to explore any more of their concepts in the future. And really, from what they have announced in the lineups with the Iron Man and the Hulk movies which are coming out, and the Hulk Agent of Smash shows, I consider it very doubtful that I will be joining in on those. But turning away from from animation, there are still the live-action shows that I do keep a hold with. Game of Thrones, which I love HBO television. There's some terrific things that come out of that. Now, Game of Thrones this season has taken a step back in terms of quality of its storytelling. Now, the first season from last year was absolutely spectacular. It was a damn good adaptation of the book. There were maybe some things that you could nitpick from the first season, but all in all, it was very solid. The second season, however, took a step back and just really stretched things out for no good reason other than the fact that they need to meet a quota of 10 episodes this season, and they're trying to do as much as possible to fill that up. The additions of new characters like Brienne to the cast are absolutely well done. I like the actress who played in that, and some of the stories which are continuing to unfold, including the Battle of the Five Kingdoms thus far, has just been very well done. But in terms of the quality when it comes to some of the filler episodes or side stories which take place in the series, I have to remark too that when it came to the Song of Ice and Fire books, the Clash of Kings is probably the next to least favorite that I have from that lineup thus far. And taking certain side stories just to eat up screen time for Jon Snow or Daenerys were deplorably executed in this, especially trying to eat up the Daenerys story in the last 3 episodes just to make it to the season finale of episode 10. Hopefully with season 3 coming up in April, I believe we'll be getting sort of a split for seasons 3 and 4 where we'll be adapting a Storm of Swords into the mix, and perhaps the quality of the show will pick up better once that comes along. However, with one HBO show which I was disappointed with but still enjoyed overall for this season, one took a very sharp step back and just really makes me question if I want to continue with it next season or not. True Blood is been known as Twilight with Tits, and is sort of the straight man's answer to the Twilight craze, to which many of the tween crowd and some older women who are still tweens at heart have taken to. True Blood was a good show, and I thought it, once it kind of stepped away from the books, it still managed to do a pretty good job at season 3. Season 4 was, I had some problems with it, but I still stuck with it. But season 5 has truly been a royal fuck up all around. This season, it was actually producer Alan Ball's last season with the show, but he would be kind of stepping on once season 6 rolls around, just kind of as a creative consultant. But his the show this past season under his tenure has really suffered in terms of character development and just some bullshit story tactics that really just eat up time this season. The take back with Sookie and the relationships with Bill and Eric, and just, you know, all of the stupid stuff which just unfolded with the Lilith, where we thought something was being built up and it's going to go somewhere, and it really left a disappointing effect in my mind after I was through watching it. Even still, to the fact that we were dealing with some of the other stuff with the werewolves, which was handled very uninterestingly. Also with the fact that basically whatever the characters were at the start of the show, we just basically hit the reset button, and the season is kind of just a overglorified Deus Ex Machina to return the characters back to the way they were in the first places, and even being wishy-washy with characters at other points, which is just really kind of a disappointment. If you want to wonder a little bit more about what I'm talking about, look what the hell did they do with the relationship in between Jason Stackhouse and Jessica in this season. We also see Bill, who takes a sharp decline in character and just become an unlikable bastard towards the end of the season. And probably one of my biggest disappointments was the build-up of one of my favorite villains in this, Russell Edgington, who was built up at the end of last season, and kind of through the first half of this season that his return would usher in a harbinger of terror in the vampire world, and it really ended in a lackluster way. It really disappointed me thus far. I'm going to be surprised. I'm still going to give Season 6 a try, but if it really starts repeating procedures or doing, God forbid, much worse than what this past season did, I probably will not go to watching it. And I hope that show, which I had enjoyed, can be improved upon with its upcoming return in the summer of next year. When it comes to other shows, everybody loves The Walking Dead. If they were not a fan of it beforehand, they go back and catch up with the first 2 seasons. They're fucking addicted to the first episode in the first 10 minutes, and they get caught up to now. In terms of this show, this is one where you're always going to have sort of a knee-jerk reaction to the punches that they pull with character deaths. And, just the examination of the psychology of people who were left behind in a ravaged world that has been, in this case, affected by zombies, and just how long they're going to not only be able to hold off the threat of the walkers which are out there still in the world, but also how well that they're going to hold up with each other. So there's some interesting things done this season. The show has also been pretty ballsy in certain areas that you might think it be cringeworthy that it goes, but the way that it handles some things this season has been pretty good thus far. I think really the only complaint that I have with this is, as I addressed before with the mid-season finales, which have become more and more frequent this year with a lot of shows. I really say that's probably about my only complaint with the show this season. It's still doing well thus far. They're handling the government, or the governor's story, absolutely well. And I really have no complaints about this show whatsoever. I'm just, kind of impatient, waiting for it to hurry the fuck up and get back here. But 2012, all in all, it's been a mixed bag in terms of television shows and just what I watched. Hate to see some things go, but I really hope that with some of the disappointments I had, that the seasons that we're looking forward to next year can really step up and just try and get some better writing, get some better plot going with its characters. Otherwise, the shows that I once loved may wind up, in fact, be no longer watched by me. It's kind of a pathetic conclusion, but all in all, 2012 for the year of television, it was just okay. Had enough bad to go along with it, and had enough good in other areas, so overall, that's pretty a mediocre year. What was your favorite stuff? Comment below, let me know, and until next time, I will be back with the best and the worst of the movies in 2012, so do stay tuned.